last class, we studied the first mantra, the Isha of the Isavasyopanishad. Ishavasyam idagam sarvam. All this is Isha. That is the first line, which is the declaration of the truth. Yat kinchat jagatyam jagat. This changing universe is nothing but the Lord, is the explanation of the truth. Tena thyaktena bhunjitaha. May you enjoy through renunciation. Tena thyaktva. By renunciation, bhunjitaha. May you enjoy is the path to the truth. So the first line is the declaration. The second line is the explanation. The third line is the path. And the last line, magradha kasya swadhana, gives the instructions to the sadhana. So what is the spiritual sadhana? He gives in the instructions. So instruction, the last line, he says, covet not anybody's wealth. Do not covet. Unknowingly, we slip into this quality. So to alert us, the Upanishad itself, the highest scriptural declarations, gives us this caution that you don't slip into this quality of coveting. As I've said, the difference between desiring and coveting. Desire is for something which you do not have. Covet is when you court someone else's possession. When you look at something which another person has, inwardly you start craving, inwardly you start wanting it. That quality of wanting something which belongs to others is called as coveting. So he says, do not covet anybody's wealth. So in a layman's term, wealth is nothing but a commodity which you can use it to exchange it with anything tangible. So it may not be liquid money as such, but something that which can be exchanged. If you see somebody having a beautiful house, every time you pass by the house, oh, so lucky, this fellow. I wish I had that. I wish this becomes mine. So what are you doing? Are you not coveting? Every time you see somebody better placed in life, you want yourself to be in that position. Inwardly, unknowingly, you are desiring, you are coveting. So when he says, do not covet others' wealth, so we have the wealth of sense objects at the physical level. You have the wealth of emotions at the mental level. You have the wealth of thoughts at the intellectual level. It's not worth coveting it. So that's a simple, direct instruction. He says, do not. Now, if you even rationalize, why should we not covet? Because there is no let me ask you all. Why should you not covet? He just says, do not covet. He doesn't say why. Why should you not covet? What's the consequence of leading a life of desiring and coveting? What's the consequence? Amitama.
Hari Om, Guruji. Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, why shouldn't we covet? I feel it is about, it is because it will be insatiable. You continue to desire, and as a result, you continue to be hurt and disappointed. And the focus is always outside, external, in something that others have.
Yeah, so I think you made 2 points. Firstly, the moment you are desiring or coveting, your attention becomes outward, your attention is extroverted. And if one leads himself through that passage of life of being extroverted, the result of that is there is no satiation, there is no satisfaction, there is no fulfillment, there is no contentment through that passage. So you cannot afford to lead an extroverted life. It only leaves you ever more discontented. It leaves you ever more dissatisfied with life. So the only way you will find yourself peaceful and contented, irrespective of your material quotient, irrespective of where we stand, there's only peace and contentment the moment you go inward, introverted. See that it is so powerfully highlighted in the text Ramayana. The entire twist in the tale of that story, the epic Ramayana, was when Sita fell in prey to the temptation of the golden deer. Isn't it? You remember that context? Very, very powerful. That folly. We are actually committing that error what Sita Ma did every experience. And then she fell a prey to the clutches of Ravana, which is the 10 senses, the powerful senses. So if we are not alert, we are actually going through, we are actually being subjected through the same consequences what Sita was subjected to. She was separated from the self. She lost her peace and happiness. As Ramatirtha puts it, he calls it as the snares of 99. There's no way you'll be able to get that 100 in your life, because all the time your mind keeps saying a little more, one more, get that. So at 99, you only want that one more. So we should realize that there is no way we cannot do any good by going extroverted, point one. And in fact, a little better interpretation to this, we'll just take that before I hear from GBK Garu. Yes, sir, please.
Jai Gurudev.
Namaskar, sir.
The present context, why we should not covet, what the consequences. I can have a desire, a palace of King's Palace. But once you get, you know how to maintain it. Well, like white elephant, yes, I have desire. The way how to maintain is not that unless you do yourself by putting your sincere efforts and getting it, you know that all the consequences, how you are going to maintain that, all you will, just like that desire, it makes a lot of disturbance the whole life to maintain that, to enjoy. You can't enjoy. You'll be, and then go on, increases the something else, something else. It is a process which you will be totally gone. So unless you put your sincere efforts and try to get things by way of your efforts, that is different, which you enjoy. But simply others' properties, others' earnings, certainly it is going to like a freely coming. Anything freely coming is a greatest sin. That is which pain. Suppose if I have something, somebody is stolen, taken away, how painful to me. The same it happens to that painful of others. It makes a lot of effect on us. That sorrowness, that unhappiness of others, and their efforts, what they got there. Simply you got it by way of crookedness, by way of other means. Certainly it affects on your life and your not only your generation and next generations also. The consequences are too very, very difficult to say again.
Right. We do not know what karma we are incurring by leading that life.
Yeah, we came here to, whatever the papas we did, we came into this to remove such like lekachara. Lekachara means that is whatever having the sin to remove. And we are going increasing the sin in this Janma also, then next Janma will be much horrible. So the consequences are totally is against your principle of the how to live.
Right, sir. Absolutely.
Thank
you. Namaskar. So a better interpretation, you could say, when he says, do not covet others' wealth. For whose is this wealth? For whose is it? When let's say A is quoting B's wealth, whose is B's wealth? From the highest standpoint, who is it that is quoting? I am Brahman. Who are you? You are Brahman. It tantamounts to Brahman quoting Brahman's wealth. How ridiculous it is. One part of me is quoting another part of me. Does it make sense? If you don't understand that, it's like me trying to suck my own toe. I don't know whether I'll be able to flex my muscles. I'm a little cramped for space here. But imagine if I go a little back and try to pull my, I'm trying to suck my own toe. Not bad, huh? In the little space I'm able to. Who does that? Some kind of satisfaction. I'm sucking my own toe. You see the picture of Balakrishna, isn't it? What joy are you getting by sucking your own toe? That is what that little Krishna tried to convey to humanity. What are you getting by coveting something that belongs to you, man? Isn't your wealth not my wealth? Why should I create that separateness? The moment I quote something which doesn't belong to me. I'm creating a separateness and otherness. So when you grow spiritually, what he's saying is that otherness, that separateness. For example, when you have an identification with someone, let's say you have a very dear friend, a very dear colleague of yours, you have both have been in the industry, and when you come to know that your very dear friend has been rewarded for his efforts, has got promotion, or he's been rewarded for his work, wouldn't you find an occasion to celebrate it? Would you ever be envious at, let's say, to make it more blunt, would you be envious at your own child's progress? Your own child is doing very well in life. Would you be envious at your own child? Why wouldn't you be, Arunama? Why wouldn't you be envious at your own child? Let's say your child is traveling the world and seeing countries and experiencing things which you have never experienced. Would you ever say in your own mind, Ada Pavi? Huh?
Hari Om Guruji.
Hari Om.
Yeah. I don't think we will be envious of our own children, or I would say my own grandchildren, because for me, I would say their growth, their happiness is my happiness. That sense of identification, that oneness is there. So that's why we feel we are all one. So when he gets something or she gets something, I feel it's same as me enjoying it. So the love is
there's that love. You see them as an extension of yourself, isn't it?
Yes.
There is that oneness. Their joy is your joy. Their sorrow is your sorrow, because you see that oneness. Now, so when you end up coveting, wanting, become envious, what does that establish? Exactly the opposite.
A separation.
A separation, a lack of identification. You don't feel, you have no emotion. We talk so much of knowledge, but that knowing, that experiencing that oneness requires an emotion, a very strong feeling. So when he says, do not covet, when you have that oneness with the other person, there is no question of coveting. How can I covet mine? It belongs to me. I am that. How can I covet myself? In the absolute sense, once you grow spiritually, there is no otherness. And that exhibits in that genuine feeling of what is opposed to desiring, coveting is you genuinely feel, what do you say, Ma?
You feel love.
You feel a sense of
oneness and love.
A sense of the otherness or the hatred or the negative feeling of all this disappears.
Guruji, can I ask a question here? A thought just came to my mind.
Please.
We always know we should see the oneness with everybody in this world. But I find that in real life, it's quite difficult when we see that people are indulging in behavior where their interests are very selfish, where they hurt others, and so on. You might say that, do not identify with the qualities in that person, see the self in all, and so on, as the teachings tells us. But then I find it is happening on such a rampant scale. Everywhere I feel, people who really deserve the credit for their good, they don't deserve it, is those who are, who are vocal, who are demanding, who are selfish, who get away with it, and those who are, the good seem to be suffering. I think there's a point where you say the good people who are passive suffer. So it hurts us, So that's a time when I feel that I personally is being tested how to apply this oneness. That's something that I experience in my real life. Just sharing it. And probably, I mean, a question to that extent, how do we continue to deal with it? I mean,
See,
just
the only way you can see a oneness is by rising above the apparent differences that the world exhibits. And how can you rise above the apparent differences the world exhibits is by taking a step back to them and telling to yourself, I have got nothing to do with their gunas. So you don't identify with their nature. Why are you identifying with their nature? Why do you have to have a love or a hatred towards someone or something? You end up having a love or hatred only when you identify with a quality. There will be the worst of people, there will be the best of people. Why should you identify? The moment you become a sakshi, you become neutral. And then you have an opportunity to see beyond the gunas. Now you're caught up in the gunas. So in effect, you're involved, which is not becoming spiritual. The only way you will be able to see some truth, the common factor, the oneness, is when I look at each of you are different. But in the differences, there is a commonality. What is the commonality? The first thing common that strikes all of us, strikes me, is that all of us are seekers of truth. You may come from a different region, you may come from a different perspective, you have a unique personality. All the differences disappear by just saying we are seekers of truth. So there's a common thread that unites all of us, isn't it? So what have I got to do with whatever differences you are exhibiting? So it is the only way, what I'm trying to say is the only way you'll be able to see the commonality is by becoming a sakshi to it. If you get involved, there is no way. So don't get involved with others' gunas. Do not get involved with others' actions. Try to maintain a sense of neutrality, and that neutrality is attained by becoming a sakshi. That is when you have a chance of seeing a oneness. Because we very quickly become judgmental, we quickly get carried away by the natures and actions. Not easy, but that's the quality we have to practice, so that we get into the spirit of what the context of the discussion is. Does that help you rationalize what you are seeking for?
yeah, I mean, it is like Guruji said, that is what we should practice, but it is not always easy every time. That's what I find. Because, I mean, the context that I told right now is, for example, we are living in Malaysia, where it's a multiracial country, and things have reached a situation where, those who are the minorities, they are deprived more and more. And even if you're eligible, you deserve it, you have got the talent, but you are deprived of it. So, you are just becoming a sakshi to it, and you just have to swallow it. But that hurts. That's what, the thought that came to my mind.
Ma, that is the law of that land.
Yes.
You can't transform the world. So one has a choice to continue to live in the land and accept it, or change it if you can, or move on. I can't complain what the world is, isn't it? Can I? So it is to take a step back. That's all. That's not being passive. You get what I'm saying?
Yes, Guruji. The knowledge helps a lot, but maybe my growth is not reached until that point. So there are times when maybe I complain, I question, and so on. But what Guruji says is the ultimate, the ideal that we should practice. Thank you, Guruji.
Yes, ma'am. It's all in stages. It's not relative and it isn't relative and absolute. It's not that ultimately you reach that state. It's to the extent you're able to practice this quality of sakshi. To that extent, it gives you, it immunes you from the apparent opposites which subject you through the various vicissitudes. You know, there is profit and loss, there's acceptance, rejectance, there is heat and cold, there is love and hatred. There are selfish people. There are people who are extremely sacrificial. So you will be immune to all these things to the extent you are a sakshi. But the problem is we become like a sponge. And what does a sponge do? If you put a dry sponge into a trough of water, it absorbs all the water. The problem is constantly absorbing everything. I'm only saying don't absorb. And how do you not absorb? By shifting your focus beyond what is happening around you. The only way you will become a sakshi to it is by switching your thoughts off it to begin with. To begin with, you take your thoughts off it and plant it on something else. Oh, there's so much of politics that's happening. That is the nature of politics. You can tell yourself, I have got nothing to do with politics. It doesn't interest me. I have no value for it. So mentally, when you have risen above it, what happens? All the happenings in the political scene doesn't hurt you, doesn't matter to you. So slowly you are disinterested in the processes. And then the time comes that anything happens that doesn't matter, it doesn't hurt you. But if you have interest in it, if you show a value to it, if you get involved in it, you will suffer. I will suffer. The only way out is by being a sakshi. And how to be a sakshi is to think of something beyond it to begin with. Okay, ma?
Okay, thank you, Guruji.
Yes. Yes, Hariji?
Hari Om.
Yes, sir. Hari Om.
Guruji, when I deeply analyze, I find only when I am selfish, I will be able to see the other man as selfish. I can call the other man as selfish when he is not taking care of my need or my desire. The moment I see that A or B is not taking care of me, or he is not bothered about my interest, then I call him, he is selfish. So if I don't bother about it, then I see that he is okay. So my own selfishness project on others, and I find them to be selfish. If he takes care of my interest, he will never be, to me, he will never be selfish. Because he is taking care of my interest. Do I sound, is it okay?
No, you make sense, yes. But in which context are you saying, sir?
No, no, at all. If I am calling anybody selfish, I mean, in this particular case, Arunaji was telling that in Malaysia, that their interest, the minorities' interest, is not taken care of. That happens all over the world. Even at in our own house, sometimes the wife doesn't take care of the interest of the husband, or the father doesn't take care of the interest of that happens all over the world. It's not only in Malaysia. A North Indian coming to South India, or a South Indian going to North India, then we always say that, okay, I am a South Indian, my interest is not protected. If they protect my interest, that is myself, that I wanted, but my interest is to be protected. And as long as they protect my interest, then I find they're okay.
No, yeah, there's a point that you're making. I agree to you, Ji. It's correct. Okay.
I
Right, Ji?
have an option if when I'm in Dubai, and or Dubai or Muscat, and if I find that those people are not taking care of my interest as an Indian, I have always a choice to leave that country and then come back. Whereas I don't want, because some part of that is suiting me. So I stick to that country. And I find it difficult because some of the aspect of that country doesn't suit me. That is my option. So what I feel personally, I have no, as long as I am selfish, I will find others to be selfish. If I'm not selfish, then I don't have any right to call the other man, anybody, whosoever it may be. I have no right to call others as selfish.
No, there is a degree of selfishness in every situation, in every person.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying, and I think your point is independently true.
Ultimately, it is me and mine. I have to be protected. Any condition where my interest is not protected, I feel that atmosphere to be selfish.
Yeah. No, very valid point. I agree to that. Thank you, Hariji.